How you been, man?
Yeah, good. What's been up with you? Looks like you've been traveling and enjoying yourself.
Yeah, no, I just took a break after, last few years. I thought I deserved it. So I went over and reconnected with a bunch of people over there, and I just got used to it. And the visa situation over there has lightened up a little bit, so you can stay a bit longer. So, yeah, that was good fun. So I thought, why not take advantage of it?
Yeah, yeah. I've told everyone around the time that that bug hit,
Yep.
I think everything changed for everyone. It was really a reset, whether people want to think about it or not. You can kind of think, no, life will go on. It doesn't. They forced one, even if it was psychologically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember at that time, my dad passed away too. So for me, it was a real hard change. I really feel like I was a different person before that moment,
Yeah.
and I'm someone completely not completely different, but I don't recognize really who I was very much
Mm.
pre 20. What was it? 2022,
2020. It was March
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really recognize the person. It was kind of a younger version of me, but when I look back on just the way I was talking in videos. Not to say that I disagree with anything I've ever said, and I'll stand up for and I'll defend that guy and I'll tell you where he was and why he had every right to speak and think the way he did.
Yeah.
But when I look at myself now, it's like, no, I'm not that guy anymore.
No, no, neither am I. People ask me to upload videos from 10 years ago. No, I'm a completely different human being. I wouldn't recognize that person.
That's something I talk to some of my friends, the few that I do talk to online, and
Mm.
that kind of are in the loop like yourself and Kara and stuff that know me through my channel and from my channel.
Yeah.
And it's funny how people think you're a jukebox, that they just get to press, play my favorite album.
Could you play that tune back from 2018, please? I'm tired
Yeah.
of the new stuff. Come on, what are you doing?
Well, it kind of ties into what I wanted to talk to you about,
Yeah.
but it ties into, I think the reluctance to change
Yeah.
and to look at yourself and adjust and clean house. And if you don't like your neighborhood, move, just things like that. And the inability for some people just to do that, they feel like they're being stoic and loyal to just stay chained to wherever they've been
Yeah.
and fight the world from, that chained position. One arm is chained to some sort of metal fire hydrant, and the other arm is free, and they've got
Yeah.
a sword in their hand, and they just forever keep themselves like swinging at the world while and they don't realize they're not chained to the fire hydrant. They're actually just holding on to it with their hand. And if you just let go, buddy, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I always say that you never leave where you are until you leave. Like, and there's a lot of guys I ran into when I was in Thailand over there, and all of them, they were all basically on the same page. They're looking for change of direction in life, and like you say, a lot of people came to that realization
Mm,
during lockdowns, and they're going over there and they have a very fixed idea of what they want.
mm,
I used to meet criminals like that, and a lot of these guys they've been institutionalized, so spend decades in jail, and they come out and they literally have a collage of what they want to achieve. Right, I'm going to have a business, I'm going to have a woman, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to have my friends over here, and they just follow it. And it's like just putting pieces in place. They completely miss out on experience. They're never present. It's just they're chasing dragons. And so, I mean, physically moving somewhere, it's meaningless without internal change. Yeah, that involves risk. Mhm.
that's the thing that really stands out to me about as a wise person, that in the moment you can use your library of wisdom
Mm,
to engage with the moment you're in.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
whereas most people think that being in the moment is you impose these cookie cutter memes into your present moment. So if you've got a woman in front of you, you don't actually take her for what she is and take yourself for what you are, and you're present with the engagement like you're having at the moment. No, it's a woman, and now I'm going to pull out from my pigeonhole of very wise ways to act and say things, and I'm going to ruin the moment by like just bludgeoning this moment to death with preconceived ideas. and then I'm going to look back on it and blame the system. I'm going to blame women, but at no point will I blame myself for being a robot in that moment. I think the wise person can sort of take or leave based upon what the moment needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I mean, we all do it. You know, it's people from all walks of life. It's yeah. I used to think that to be someone, to achieve something in life, to become whole, I had to add things instead of actually seeing it for what it was. I only discover myself when I actually strip myself down to the essence of who I am, not what I believe I should be or what others perceive me to be or expect me to be. Because I mean, ultimately, we're the architects of our own suffering. You know, our thoughts, they're the world we create for ourselves, and everybody follows templates. You could talk to a soldier. A lot of soldiers, they watch movies of how soldiers should act. A lot of criminals, they watch movies of how criminals should act. So they act that way. It's a template. But never once did they pay attention to what's going on inside them. It took me years, decades to get to that point where I could just stay present with myself. It was the hardest thing I could ever do.
Yeah, and I think it's doubly hard for guys because there's a lot of practical and beneficial things from staying very rigid and like habitually mechanical. Like, you know, I trust that my friend SPTESNAZ will act and say and be exactly the same kind of guy throughout the years. I can rely on him. And that sense of loyalty, it really kind of serves men well to build, societies and rely on things and build structures and fraternity and things like that. And that's all well and good. But we're so rigid that we can't adjust, not one bit, because like you said, all we do is accumulate. At no point a man wants to throw away anything. I mean, I've got shelves on my books that I read like maybe 15 years ago, and they were pivotal moments, and I refused to throw that book away, even though I'll never read it again. It meant something to me, but I just want to kind of keep it there for nostalgia or prosperity, or respect it. I'm loyal to it, Why should I throw it away? But it's part of that, like, you need to make space for stuff. Like, you're not going to go back there anymore. You need to put it in your rear vision mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big thing, is always creating that space. Because you've got the TV on full blast in the background. You won't be able to think, right? And you've hedged yourself in with all these beliefs, all these perceptions about the world. Like you say, we've changed. People change. And it's not just philosophy that we ingest, but it's experiences. And we can see that the world is shades of grey. And we've grown, we've evolved, and you talk about expectations. Yeah. Expectations
like, for instance,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll just finish this thought. It's expectations is one of the biggest causes of suffering that we have, especially as men, because we do expect men and women and everybody around us to act in a certain way. We have this belief. Why aren't they acting according to the principles that we appreciate, that we value? That's just it's a horrible dead end for men if they live that way, because all it's going to do is bring suffering. People won't act in that way.
It's kind of a shame for me when I talk to some guys briefly. I don't talk to them very much. I used to talk to, say, just a wide variety of guys in my subs on previously when I had an open Discord channel, much more publicly with a wide variety of people. But I feel like now I can't connect because everyone is compartmentalizing the way they're thinking. They come pre-prepared with their conversations and discussions. They're not talking to me in real time the way I am with you, where you say something and I'm trying to really pay attention and at the heart of what you're trying to communicate to me. And sometimes I wonder when people watch your videos, SPTESNAZ, that I get what you're saying, but they get lost in the stoic superhero aspect of it. It's very far removed. But when you're talking about these things, I'm imagining how you, the individual, is making decisions with these stories, and you tell about a little experiences you had in Thailand and things like that. Whereas people are listening to you, I'm imagining, as like a fictional story, like a stoic essay or something.
It's very different in Thailand when you deal with the Thai people. I mean, they see you for who you are. Like, you present yourself, and they appreciate that. Men over there present a fabrication, of who they think they should be in that moment in front of a Thai woman. And they
Mm.
got that ideal in their head of what they want, how they want to achieve it, and she's just that, that you know, she doesn't even speak English. She's just that piece that they move around the chessboard. So, I mean,
Y-
in the West, we can't even get past our own opinions and our own perceptions to actually see the person standing in front of us. We only see the image that we're formulating in our minds.
You know, for a long time, until the later half of my life, I was never into traveling. I never traveled. I never saw the point. People always going
Yeah.
to find themselves overseas, and it's only been in the last decade that I've opened up and I really enjoy it. But I really came to notice when I've traveled recently, the reason people, I think, love traveling and quote unquote finding themselves is when you go to another place, you it's the only time you're actually forced to be present whether you want to or not. You have no history there, you're not in the past, and you have no future there. You're literally forced to just enjoy being free and being yourself, and you have no worries in the world. You are literally there temporarily, and you can't fool yourself into thinking you're otherwise. And I think when people find themselves on holiday, on vacation, they go to another part of the world, it's they're out of their own routines and they have no future or past. And for once, they go, "This is me. This is actually me in real time."
Yeah, it's interesting when people face with that, and I've seen men face with that in Thailand. I've seen it, in jails as well, prisons, but with the younger guys that I've helped and coached as well. But yeah, when they're faced with that, when they're faced with their truth, they can go right off the rails. It gets really ugly. They lose themselves in addiction, alcohol, all the rest of it, and start raging at the moon. You see it. So it's not a comfortable place to be for a lot of men, and that's why they have so many self deletions over in Thailand. It's
I wanted to ask you,
difficult.
how do you like, you obviously appreciate it when you go for a vacation or you go to Thailand, or how do you remind yourself or take that back with you when you go back to your normal life where you have your roots, where you live? How do you take back that reminder on vacation? How do you keep it going when you go back home?
Yeah, I mean, well, I did a lot of retreats over there, so I actually like boxing. When I was younger, I wanted not only to adopt the physical, I wanted to adopt a philosophy. So I deliberately sought out mentors and coaches that would actually give me a philosophy. Simple things. I remember guys saying to me things like, I don't succeed when I make a fighter champion. I succeed when I make him independent of me. Things like that. So I wanted a philosophy that I could take back home and systematically just put in place in my life. Actual quantifiable steps I could take. And it became incredibly frustrating because the monks kept pointing out to me that that's not how it works. You actually have to be aware of what's going on inside you, and that takes a lot of internal work, and it's incredibly painful. So
Mm.
so I've spent years in Thailand trying to get to that point where I can just remain present, but pay attention to my thought process and be able to detach myself from them. So it's a constant process, a constant focus.
Mm.
That's very difficult. So those are the things I've taken back. But it was easy when I first went there, where I could see the Thai people compared to the expats. The expats were miserable, they were suffering. The Thai people, they were happy, and they were happy being in the present. And I said, that's what I need. I want to be there. How do I get there?
Mm.
So it's been a journey. It's taken me years to do it. But yeah, it's Buddhism. Not that I'm religious or anything, but some of the principles and theories really appeal to me. It's just that it's deceptive in that it's a practice of non-practice. It's
Mm.
actually a lot of work to get there, to actually be able to detach yourself, let go of the anchors from the past, let go of desire for things that weigh you down, and let go of the resentment, let go of anger. So
Mm.
it's a lot of tough stuff that you have to do as a man. It's not easy.
There's too many people that are very black and white and very binary with their views. Like, either one philosophy has all the answers or it doesn't. But again, it's one of these things. It's like going to the gym. It's like training. It's not a set and forget thing. People think that mistakenly, like the information in the manosphere, you get a light bulb moment that you finally figure something out. Your memory will forget it. Just like you forget that you enjoyed cornflakes when you were young, and then you eat cornflakes again, and you remember again. This is the answer. I wonder why I stopped eating cornflakes. And you just have to keep those habits going to stay in real time. Almost anything that's worthwhile in your life that lubricates your life in a good way, that keeps you, balanced and content, and with your hands on the steering wheel, just requires repetition and maintenance, despite how you feel. Because at the other end, through this boring maintenance, you will kind of be more in control of your life.
Yeah. Well, that's what people do. I mean, they spend their entire lives just building these safe zones for themselves, and these little bubbles of safety. All their opinions just get repeated back to them. So, their beliefs, their perceptions are never challenged. I mean, I don't go online very, very often, and I find a lot of that toxic. I don't want that sort of taking up my time, but it's, you read some of the comments, and I mean, these guys are repeating comments that I read 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And it's not just guys online. I'm not taking Mickey or pointing the finger at them. I'm just saying that it's, everybody does that. They get stuck in a loop, get stuck in a cycle. But if you're going to look for happiness or contentment or any kind of peace, and those kind of same cycles of behavior, it's just going to increase your suffering. That goes for everybody. So you've got to be consciously aware. It's a lot of hard work. It's tough. Challenge your perceptions.
Yeah, and you've got to find stuff that works for you, because I've often said, like, there could be a popular mentor, who's the flavor of the day. A few years ago was Jordan Peterson. Yeah. It was Tony Robbins before that. It was, pick your person. But a lot of the times everyone's talking around the same lessons, but it depends on who resonates with you and who gives you language, but most importantly, if you can give yourself the language to dislodge yourself from your old bad habits. Because there's been so many moments, man, where I've had different people in my life tell me the same, trying to teach me the same lesson, and I wouldn't hear it, or it was just kind of boring. Like, I'd nod my head and go, yeah, that's true, but whatever. And then it took certain words from a certain person at a certain point in time where it hit me like religion. And then it was like, and it's like, and I had to smile, because I know people have been telling me this for a long time, and now it's hitting me for some reason, and it's almost laughable. So a time and place is a thing too.
Well, it's interesting. Like you saw the last few years, how the media and the government and medical professionals and everybody, they achieved the narrative. They put forward a narrative, and they said that there's your little box. You can't talk outside of this box. So you can't challenge any of this. So if you have any kind of discourse outside of this, that's not accepted. That's conspiracy theory. And if you notice, that box keeps getting smaller for men online. The language becomes more limited every single year. And so the confines of that conversation about what makes a man, what constitutes being a man, what constitutes masculinity, that box is getting tighter and narrower. It's getting smaller and smaller. And there's less and less discourse outside of it. So what they're presenting is one theory, one way of being. And if you're not this, you're unacceptable. And those gradients, those goalposts, you keep shifting. It's ridiculous. You see it happening every year.
Yeah, but I think the only way forward is to adapt, not to acquiesce to what they're saying, but the only thing you can do at any point in time. You look at history to now. Any animal, the human race, you need to adapt. And in this point in time, the adaptation to me is knowing what is right, how you want to live, what is fair, and what is dysfunctional, and standing up for that. And so whether it's, telling a woman to shut her face, or like, you have this opinion and you don't care what they say, you're entitled to this, and you can articulate it, you can be polite and civil, but you can say no, and you can say no intelligently, I think is the best way to go about things. And I think people look foolish by comparison. If you can be much more stoic and definite in your boundaries and your no's, people can wail and spurg out and be emotional as much as they want, but they come off looking dumber than you. And you, as a result, I think you feel more self-assured. So I think the only way forward is philosophical and to think and speak better and stand up for what you know to be right, rather than trying to hide from women and avoid the government and, make the best with what you've got and be the best person you can be in this situation. Because the world's not going to change. It's probably going to get worse, and it's going to continue to manipulate us. I'm probably going to get my bank account hacked again, but a whole bunch of stuff.
It was interesting. I caught the end of Terence Pop's latest stream. It was absolutely hilarious. He's great. He's great value. But old Pop, he was talking about the difference between compassion and selfishness. And we're saying in his military grunt style, he said selfishness, it takes you down a bad path. Like that could be in relation to the economy or what have you. People become inherently selfish. They take the easy choices. They make the easy actions, and they're going to end up somewhere bad. And that's where they want you. They want you emotional. They want you making emotional decisions. So you can be easily marketed to. So you'll buy their products. So you buy into the narrative. You won't think outside the box. So we can't let people shame us. We can't let people guilt us. Got to stand up for yourself. And you do that by taking personal responsibility. That's a key component of Buddhism as well. But what did Pop say? He said his friends, they'll always set him straight. They say, Pop, you're fucking up. Unfuck yourself. You're going down a bad road, son.
Yeah. The bad thing is today that guys have less and less friends. The way the world is, it's already done its best to kind of demolish religion, right? It's demolished the family. It's separated men, women. Everyone's in a silo on their own, and now individuals just don't have friends. They're on their own in front of a computer, and they feel like they got a whole group of friends, whether it's a group they belong to on the internet, or they might have like a couple of guys they regularly hang out with in chat rooms and things like that. And they've replaced what a social setting used to be, that used to make them kind of feel like a community out in the real world. Now there's actually no community, but you perceive that you've got a really personal community online, but it's actually nothing. You're talking to yourself, and everyone's creating ghosts of themselves in little chat rooms, in like groups of YouTube channels and comment sections on the internet and things like that. And they've just atomized us. We're all individuals believing we're free, but essentially the whole world has become the equivalent of a red light district that we have to walk down and refrain from taking the easy way and walking into a bar or picking up a girl or buying a substance or something. You have to be a real strong-willed individual. In our parents' generation, you had a whole city and you had a red light district in this pocket of town, and it was very easy to avoid. Now every street is a red light district, and it's very hard for everyone to avoid it. You really have to make a concerted effort to be stoic and strong and think of tomorrow and keep up good, healthy habits mentally and physically. It's a lot harder than it used to be.
That's a really good point, saying that everywhere in society is a red light district now. There's so many sharks in the water now, but that's people. So how many men just spend their entire lives just running towards things that they believe are going to bring them happiness, and instead they just find frustration, disappointment.
I wanted to ask you, you've mentioned that you kind of you've counseled guys, you help guys face to face, things like that. At what point do you think a man becomes not so much useless or valueless, but when you can't help him anymore? At what point do you stop trying to help, and the best course is to let him drown so he can sort of rise from the ashes himself? Because I see it a lot now. The guys are very stubborn, and I know a lot of it isn't their fault, where they might have grown up without a father, the system's against them and all those things. But when do you, as a someone who wants to help, and I'm happy to help guys, but I'll help anyone that's drowning, but I refuse to be pulled under, because I know myself that my most liberating points are when I hit rock bottom. And these guys, it's almost like they don't want help. And at some point, I feel like with me, I've lost a lot of compassion for guys who are so stubborn and so egotistical. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, we try to, without the kind of intervention that we have typically for, released offenders, the family, the community, the marae, everybody gets involved. So there are support structures in place. So, if you don't have that, there's not much you can do. All you can do is counsel them. And you're right, you've got to protect yourself, because if you're not in a healthy mind and a healthy body, you can't help yourself first and foremost, which means you can't help others. So it's going to drain your compassion. And all you can do is you put it in the plane. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens from you. And you can give them examples. You can bring in guys to talk to them, talk about their life experiences, but that's it. I mean, if they're determined to go down that track, that's the track they're going down. And a lot of that is just, it's reinforced from childhood. With guys online, it's always been difficult for me to be able to formulate a way of reaching men, especially younger men today, because it's happening through a screen. I've spent a good portion of my life trying to help men because, older men helped me when I was younger. So it's by default I did that. I didn't even think about it. So, that's a process I've employed. But when you've got guys that are so lost and really the only form of communication is online, there's not really much you can do. And I can understand them raging and snapping back at us, saying, hey, you older guys, you weren't there for us. Where were you? And all the rest of it. And they got the meme stuck in their heads. But
maybe it's also that you experienced, from what I gather, mentors here and there that really helped you when no one else would. Whereas with me, I can't really, there weren't very many. I helped myself most of the way. At every point, I had to pick myself up. The only people that did is maybe people in books. I read books and authors and people who weren't in front of me, and I listened to them and read their words, and they helped me. And in essence, I helped myself. So I gained that confidence and reassurance. But I didn't really have a mentor that spoke to me the way you sound like you're trying to help guys and have helped them.
It was the things that sort of light bulb moments for me that went off when I was younger. It was, because I was messing up just like a lot of guys in my neighborhood were. And it was, somebody put it to me. They said, we've got to learn to regard men less in the light of what they do or what they neglect to do, and more in the light of what they suffer. And he was saying that specifically about offenders. And he was saying, we're not dismissing what they've done. We're not, letting them off the hook, but we're trying to understand where they came from. And that blew my mind. I'd never thought of it that way. I'm going to understand this person from a compassionate approach, because what became apparent to me, and this was when I was in my 20s, is the more selfish I was in terms of selfishly looking inwards, in terms of self-absorption. I'm not talking about introspection, I'm talking about being self-absorbed. That just killed empathy. It killed compassion. Because I found when I focused on myself, my world contracted. And as a result, all of my problems and all my preoccupations, they became larger. But when I found that I focused on others, my world expanded. So my own problems, they just drifted. They drifted to the periphery. So, as a result, they seemed smaller. And by doing that, I increased my capacity for connection. And doing that, I became more compassionate. And I found that compassion was the key to understanding others, but understanding myself and making my world a better place, a more healthy place. So, with men, I mean, men are willing to build walls. They're building too many walls, but they never build enough bridges. That's a problem.
Well, the world tells them that everything outside of them is dangerous. Women, the system, life. You could be locked down again. So the only safe place is inside, and you build this wall. You lock all the gates, and you feel like this makes sense. I can control this. It's basically an empty room, but I know what it is. It's a very known quantity. Whereas the world tells you everything else is really scary, unpredictable. There are no rules. You can't rely on tomorrow. You can't rely on other people. And so it seems very logical. So it takes a lot of will and calculated risk to kind of go, okay, look, I know that bad things can happen and someone can betray me, but I refuse to stop extending the olive branch. I refuse to stop giving someone the benefit of the doubt if they've shown me that they haven't betrayed me yet. This is the thing, like the loss of trust is a big thing. I think a lot of guys stoically think like, no, I don't need to trust anyone. I'm a real man. You start thinking of yourself like a superhero, like you said, like in an egotistical way, in a selfish way, where you're some lone wolf in quotes, that you don't need anyone. So then you can dispense with basic human emotions like trust and compassion, like all these good things, because they'll only get you betrayed, and you learn to justify those cold sociopathic axioms that you develop by looking at romantic movies like, I think you've even mentioned, like Heat, like Macaulay saying you don't need anyone. Like it's great when you're in survival mode, but when you've got friends around, you want to keep your friends, you want to create a community, you want to have a girlfriend, you want to have a conversation like you and I are having. You can't be that person. That person's great to survive as a survival mechanism, but then once you've survived, now you're in the clear. If you're Macaulay, being Macaulay when it's raining and there's a cyclone out there is great, but being Macaulay while the sun is out and the birds are chirping, it's fucking insane.
Yeah. What's the thing is, even if someone like a guy could be completely right about something, he could be right about this. He could say, I'm 100% right about this. This is irrefutable. But he could still be wrong if the approach he is taking is not healthy for him. He's got to stop and ask, does this approach, does it serve me? Does being so entrenched and so, dualistic and my feet in the mud so firmly and being caught up in the noise, inside and outside, is it healthy for me mentally? Is it healthy for me physically or spiritually?
Mm.
And when you mention Heat, there was essentially a prequel to that by the same director. Michael Mann directed Thief. It starred James Caan. His character was actually the prototype for Macaulay. He had a different name, but it was still the exact same character.
I've got to watch that. I don't think
yeah,
I've watched that movie.
yeah,
How old is it?
1981, so it was made about 15 years before the Heat.
Oh, okay.
But absolutely fascinating. It had a diner scene as well. I'll get to that in a second, which was the best scene in the film. But it was a precursor to the Macaulay character. He'd just been released from prison. And he's trying to get his life together. Like I say, he's got this collage. He's trying to fit all the pieces together. He's got the woman, got the business, got the friend, and he's doing jobs, doing high stake heists. But you see him. It makes sense when you look at the Macaulay character in Heat now, because his character when he's younger, he's more of a hothead. He's more impulsive, and you can see where it's coming from. He's trying to piece that together and hold that anger in, and all these other demons. And he basically goes in full destructive mode when he's put under pressure. But he's got the scene in a diner with the woman that he's seeing, and it's a beautiful scene because he articulates perfectly exactly what he sees their relationship as, what he wants out of the relationship, what he can bring to the table, what she brings to the table, what his future is, how he feels. He talks about his past, how that's affected him, how he's grown from that, what his mindset is, what his philosophy is. It's an incredible scene. And
you're making me want to watch it now.
Yeah. When you watch it from that perspective and compare it to Heat, and then because I've known guys like this, that's their approach in life. I thought Heat was perfect, but it was a far more realistic depiction of a criminal. I thought, yeah, that makes sense. So it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I think we touched on the topic. I was talking to Kara a couple of days ago. And we touched on the topic that it's much more important to be honest than just to communicate. Because I always talk about communication is essential. It's at the heart of my relationship at the moment. It's at the heart of success of any of my happy moments, the stability of my life. It's just kind of communication and being real about things. But I think a lot of people can just talk. And you see a lot of the popular channels where all they do is like this, 5 people with a microphone in their face and they're just bitching at each other. They're talking a lot and it looks like communication and everyone thinks that, oh my God, this is psychology and they're talking things out and the conversation's happening. It's not. It's people yelling at each other. This is reality TV. And more so than just communication, I think if people are honest individually, like you mentioned the thief scene in the diner. That is what I try to get to the heart of in my streams and videos is
Yeah.
like, be an individual, don't be afraid, learn how to articulate yourself, and you have every right to live and say and do what you want. Just be kind to people and be fair. And you have every right to say what you want. And if a woman shames you, who cares? Like, she's got no right to puppeteer your life any more than you have to her. But this kind of this expression of what you just mentioned, the James Caan character, of articulating honestly where he is, what he wants, what he feels. I'm painting an exact picture of who I am, sweetheart. Like, this is the best thing I can do. And I think individually, guys, even if they don't have a woman in front of them, if they can do that for themselves, paint a picture and articulate exactly who they are, what their desires are, what they're afraid of. Like, honestly, just like, no, I'm really afraid of this. When I go on a date, I'm scared to death of this. Or at this job, I hate my job. I've been there for 5 years and I just can't leave because I've got to pay my bills. Or I picked the wrong woman. I've been married for 5 years and, I've got to take responsibility, but I'm unhappy. Just face the stuff that you're unhappy about and make the hard thing. Do the thing you're supposed to do, because life will be better. It'll be painful, but life will be better at the other end of it very, very quickly.
Yeah. Ultimately, it always comes back to personal responsibility. I know that people don't like to hear that, but it is what it is. And that's essentially what I've spent years in Thailand trying to understand. I wanted to understand my true nature, and I want to live in alignment with who I am. I don't want to be living chasing some ideal somebody else has for me, what I have in my own head. We're trying to live up to these just unrealistic expectations.
You know what's worse
So
is that,
I always
say
understood.
you do, even if you do follow these ideals, say you trust your brothers, you got friends, and you all work from the same template, what you can't avoid is that it may work for them. I doubt it does, but say the camaraderie of a group of friends, right? I'm pretty sure if you and I and a couple of mates, if we all went traveling for a year, we would seemingly be doing the same things, but individually, we'd want to eat different things at different times. We want to experience different things. One of us would want to see this temple. The other one would want to see that. One of us would want to sleep in. You're not always wanting to do the same things. And it really is up to the individual person to, respect people around you, but really be attuned to who you are and what you want at any one time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's when I went to airports, I used to think there's something about airports that lowers people's IQ, and then I realized no, it's actually because there's a large group of people in an airport. It suddenly occurred to me, but it's like likewise when you look at change. Like change is never painful. Resistance to change is painful. So it's about looking at things from a different angle, and those were the angles I couldn't see. And I couldn't understand that. What's happiness? Well, happiness comes from my own thoughts, and it relies on what I think. It doesn't depend on what I have or who I am or who I think I am. And holding on to all these anchors. I mean, I'm holding on to suffering. Am I holding on to it? Is suffering holding on to me? No, I'm holding on to suffering, and it's looking at things from different angles. Likewise, when I was younger, as when I was growing up and getting those guys sort of guiding me in the right path, saying "unfuck yourself," or getting a boxing coach and telling me, "No, you're missing this. You've got to work on this aspect." So that's what I love about it. That when I talk to the monks, I'd try and compare that and say, "Oh, they had a love for Thai boxing as well, so got on well." But they could see where I was coming from with it, and they'd always tell me, "Slow down, slow down, slow down, grasshopper." You're going too far. You can't have it all at once, because it's fascinating to me. I want to see things from the complete perspective, and I keep realizing things and think, well, what didn't I think about 20 years ago? It's right in front of me. Why didn't I realize it?
Yeah.
It always happens. Always.
Wasted time is like something people can't. It's very hard to confront, especially say you're a guy for decades now. You've been so arrogantly certain about a certain mindset or a thought, and you don't want to budge. And say you've got some sort of status It could be a church. It could be like a sporting group. It could be a YouTube channel. And you just keep churning out the same cookie cutter stuff that enlightened you 20 years ago, and you got a following, and that following makes you feel even more certain than you're on the right path. But you can't deny that you're not sleeping well. Your thoughts aren't great, but you just keep going back to the group and back to the same religion and the same talking points and the same gospel read from the same book. And you don't want to adjust one word because it gives you security. I think those are the things, because you get older, and I'm pretty sure it had happened to women who were, super girl power chicks in their 20s, and they refuse to loosen their grip on that stuff, and they get to be 40 or 50 or 60, and they're still pointing their finger at men, and men are still 40, 50, and 60 with their gold chains and open shirts at clubs trying to pick up women, and they're still a 50-year-old guy with a 20-year-old dating mentality. It's... What can you do? Like you said, if the student's not ready, then what can you do?
One of my favorite writers is Marcel Proust. And he's saying that one of the quotes with me was, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new lands, but in having new eyes." And I was with a group of friends. I was at this couple's place the other night, and I've known her for years, and she has this big meme across the wall, the decal or whatever it is, and it says, "What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create." And she doesn't live by that at all. She's completely oblivious to the meaning of it. It's everything else. It's everybody else's problem. They're the problem. And she's saying that. And there's this banner above her head reading that. And I just thought it was hilarious. She's blaming everybody else. It's a complete contradiction.
Yeah, I think it was Michael Tsarion, I think, that once said, I still remember, I'm paraphrasing though, he says, everyone's looking to get new experiences. Everyone's like, we talked briefly about, you go on holiday and you feel like you're refreshed or you found yourself or whatever. And he says, it's not experiences that need to be refreshed. It's the eyes of the experiencer that need to be refreshed continually.
100%. And just taking that perspective alone, it's like, shit, right. I've been doing it wrong all these years. Okay, right.
What's been a big turning point for you in the last 4 years since the whole lockdown and things like that? Is there any kind of big shift you've noticed? If you can, where does your mind snap to as a turning point within these last few years?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything shut down. So all that community work that I was doing, all of a sudden all the funding got cut. And we've got all these families that we know where these young guys, they need assistance and they need interventions, and all of this just went out the window, and I was completely powerless. There's nothing I could do. Try and keep in touch with them over Zoom or whatever. But complete powerlessness. I knew a lot of business owners went under, and some of them stood up against mandates and all the rest of it, and they got persecuted. And I knew a lot of people in that boat, because a lot of the people that stood up against these mandates were people at the bottom rung. From a economic perspective. So, I knew a lot of people that were impacted by it. And that was a big turning point for me. And I said, okay, I've got to change things up. And I had to do that with my business as well and a few other things. So I said, at the end of it, I'm going to make some serious changes here. I'm going to go in a different direction. I said, but I owe myself a break. I'm going to get my mind right first.
Yeah. Like I said, I think a lot of people, they were forced to... They had water splashed on their face, whether they wanted to or not. I'm amazed at people that just kind of went back to doing what they were doing pre the lockdown.
Stunned.
For me, it's kind of like there's nothing there. I know you're wanting to see something there, but I just don't see how they can see exactly the same thing in exactly the same routines, and they're kind of smiling at me with a mask, saying, "Yeah, it's all the same. It's all fine. Back to normal."
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of people turn their backs on me, and now they want to do business with me, and like, I can't trust you. Sorry, trust gone. Can't do it. And, they want access to my network, and like, no, I don't trust you. I can't recommend you. Sorry, can't do it. And it's just, if it happens again, how can I trust you? You got to be able to judge people on their actions, and they don't seem to understand that. But it's all I can go off. Prove to me you're a different person.
Yeah, I noticed. I mean, I've always, I think, through my channel, I haven't intentionally tried to evolve and change for change's sake, but I've always trusted where I felt like, I want to adjust this. I want to show my face. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to change. I want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about this anymore. And you just kind of get the world pulling at you, wanting you to do the same thing again and again. And I just don't want to be the same person, say I was 10 or 15 years ago, and just repeat the same Tuesday. And I get that guys love loyalty, but at the same time, man, like I'm just a guy talking on the internet trying to find my own answers. I'm sharing with you. I want to have a conversation, but you guys are thinking you just want to freeze time to feel safe until the grave comes. And I've just got a very different mentality. I mean, I don't think you can really change the core of who you are, but the stopping that kind of growth and exploration and enthusiasm to wake up and do something new and fine tune those dials and cut away what doesn't fit anymore. I think those things are great, but a lot of guys I think feel like if you change anything, you're betraying them. You're no longer a friend. You can't be trusted. They don't really have a barometer of, no, this is just a person being themselves and they're growing. They haven't actually offended you. They're just doing what they need to do. Whereas this is actually a betrayal of trust. This is an insult. This is being used and abused. And I think people really don't have a good interpretation when I talk to some guys where they get offended, and whether it's women or the world. It's like you're living in concepts. You're not really, you don't have a clear definition of what betrayal is and what your own life is.
And it's the thing with Thai people. I mean, the difference with them is they don't approach situations or people from a position of absolute certainty. They just approach life. They live in the present and they approach with healthy curiosity, and they're quite willing to sit down with you and actually, accept and embrace different views and perspectives if it rings true. It's okay. I understand and respect that you have that perspective. May have a differing perspective. That's fine. But they're not going to get entrenched and fight back and take it as personal slight. They're going to start throwing punches or.
Yeah, it's kind of very odd. I would say there's very few people I talk to today from the old manosphere. There's you and one or two other people, and even then they aren't the old guard. I'd say out of the old guard, the people who are known, who are producing content, you're probably the only person I talk to, and I haven't talked to you for a while. But you're the only person I keep in contact with. Everyone else is everyone's kind of siloed themselves, living in their own little cages. It's kind of very strange to me. And it's fine. People can do what they want. I wish them the best of luck, and I hope to talk to them again. I have nothing against any of those guys, but it's just not a world I understand. I kind of got into making content where it was a philosophical discussion about what was going on out in the world practically, and I was always trying to, through videos and discussions with people and making content, continually like build bridges and have that connection between reality and philosophy. And now like it's just all philosophy, and now it's just kind of like very religious. And if you change it all, if you're not with us, you're against us. That seems to be the mentality. And it's kind of strange and sad. And I wish the guys the best, and I know they've got the world against them, but what can you do?
And it's like you've been talking about it for years that a lot of men and women as well. I mean, they talk in memes, and they've become very isolated and cut off now. I've noticed that they've hunkered down. They don't go out and socialize anymore, and they're just living in these online bubbles. It's like that movie, this movie with Bruce Willis, where like his wife is stuck to this machine 24/7, and she just lives out this fantasy character. What was it, something clones or something? But yeah, they live in an alternate reality, and it's
Yeah,
It's
I feel like a lot of people online gives you a space where you can just talk around the subject and circle it. Whereas I think in the past, when we lived more connected to the world, it was given that we were looking for solutions to fix things in our lives. So even if you went to therapy, you went there to fix something in your life. But now it's almost like you're going to therapy online, talking in circles, and it's not really to fix anything. It's kind of to engage and construct your own reality TV program. Like, let's just all entertain and talk and get energized and excited about this like a video game, but it's not connected to the real world at all. At least therapy, you went there to fix your real life. And back when, MGTOW was sort of a guys making thoughtful comment, it was, you got a sense that these were guys with experience from real life, and guy was divorced and this happened to him, and this is the data, and the data is connected to actual pedestrian statistics of an everyday guy going to work and his wife leaving him and things like that. But now you watch these podcasts and it's like, this isn't real, man. This is like almost curated reality TV of people giving examples of the most extreme kind of men and women. And I'm thinking, are you so like, you could see this train wreck of a woman from orbit. Like, why would you even go out with her? Why would a girl go out with such a bad boy? Like, it's so cartoonish now, the examples that they proffer as like, oh no, this is just every woman or every guy. It's like, no one would have this person as a friend. And if you went out with them and had kids with them, like, you deserve this idiot.
Yeah, it's just noise. It's constant rage bait, and it's getting people emotional, and that's how you get them invested. And they want us in that dumbed down state. It's like the movie you. It's one thing that I knew, that I've come to know, and I know a lot of men have come to the same point, is that if I want to change, then I have to that I know in order to discover my own true nature. Actually live in alignment with. And I have to get clear on who I am and what my values are, what my principles are, what my morals are, what ethics are. Now, that's a conversation you have with a man. And I've had that conversation numerous times, and I just get a blank stare at me. You've really got to take it step by step. And this is men from all walks of life. They don't stop and think about this stuff or ask these questions. They don't get clear on who they are.
And also important, when you make a decision to do that, you have to also not just add good stuff like, I'm going to go for a run. You have to start cutting away the things that are bad for you. So 100%. It's not just like with your thinking. Like, you can't say, now I want to get serious about dating or my life. You can't keep watching the same shitty content anymore. You can't keep watching porn as much. You can't, you know what I mean? You have to, you can't eat the donuts anymore. Like, if you're serious about wanting to be happier and being more stable, you can't just add good stuff. You got to get rid of. I did a recent stream where I talked about.
I was just going to mention that. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mentioned in the last stream, guys talk about what does the person bring to the table. How about what they don't? What about that? They don't have. They have a lack of, like, they've got this refreshing clarity. Lack of materialism, lack of nagging, lack of bitching, lack of fighting, lack of gaslighting, just a clear simplicity. How about that? What about what you don't come to the table with as well? What you don't encumber your life with, put into your life, like, that'll make you getting healthier so much easier. But if you're dragging around all old dysfunction like an anchor, and on top of that, you're trying to read books and get healthy, dude, you're going to be pulled back. The anchor is too heavy. You have to cut those anchors away in order to kind of move forward and be happier and lighter.
I try to put in place, if I'm going to add something to my life, I'm going to have to put something away. And that's what the ties do. And by doing that, you're creating room. You're, from the mental perspective of making room in the jungle so you can breathe, you can add new experiences. It's like, if you've got the hots for a young woman and she doesn't reciprocate, she's not interested, well, you've got to let that go. If you've always wanted to work at Disneyland your whole life and it isn't coming to fruition, you've got to let go. You've got to make space for new experiences.
Well, it ties into the concept of loss that you've mentioned a fair bit. Like, the guys think the answer is, I just spin more plates, I accumulate more women, therefore I don't feel any loss. But that's not what you're doing. Like, you have to experience something fully, you have to make room for it by letting something else go. But if you just keep like in a claustrophobic sense, like just putting more and more elephants in the room, and you think, oh, everything's fine, like, but you can't breathe. Like, you need to kind of have the clarity of one thing that you're focused on. You can't just spread out your risk everywhere and say I'm safe, but you're not experiencing any one woman properly. You're not making the best use of your time. You don't know what you want. You don't pick 100 things and think I found the answer of life. You're supposed to pick one focused thing and give your energy to it. And then maybe you find out that's not for you, you adjust. But so much of this spreading out and being entertained by a million channels and dating 5 women on the go, and it's just so much hiding and lack of courage to kind of know what you want and pick something.
And it's all these perceptions that we have. We just hold on to them for dear life. That's our safety. You know? But perceptions, they're subjective. They're always going to be. Right? They influence how we react and interact with the world. And those perceptions, more often than not, if somebody isn't doing a degree of introspection, isn't looking inside, then those perceptions are going to be born from our attachments, from our ignorance, from our arrogance, from our bias, from our pride, all these preconceived notions that we have. So if we want to shift those perceptions and, ultimately experience some degree of freedom and some degree of happiness and contentment, we're going to have to do that self-analysis. And it gets ugly, and we're going to have to turn that TV off. We're going to have to turn the sound down. But, that's a little bubble of safety that people will retreat to.
Yeah.
What a horrible place to be. What a hell. What an absolute hellscape. Awful.
Well, it's a hard thing to fight against the human nature for comfort. It's hardwired into us. We love feeling comfortable. It gives us security. We feel safe from a very primal point of view. We don't like being in fight or flight. And so we just do everything that seems familiar. We go back to familiar conversations. We go back to our own internal Bible of like, we know what we're certain about. It's almost counterintuitive to keep questioning things all the time, to stay in the moment and be present, because you want to feel safe. It's hardwired. So it takes a lot of conscious will to sort of stay frosty and stay here in the day. Like today is 27 degrees. It's a Saturday. It's whatever. Like, I'm having a conversation with you, and not be neurotic about it, not try and be perfect, but just let go and take it for what it is, and know what you're going to say next in real time, rather than prepare for the sake of safety. So it takes a lot of practice to be this person more effortlessly and more openly. Like you talk about the Buddhists, like it all sounds great and romantic on paper, but unless you try and start to do these things in baby steps, you'll never get anywhere. And you're always just going to be listening to SPTESNAZ videos and admiring the Stoic words without actually trying to kind of try those words out and those concepts and those perspectives out in your real life. When you go to the supermarket and you say hello to the chick at the checkout, and like you're really engaged with that moment, and okay, this is life, like, just in small steps.
Well, it's the thing, it's giving you yourself the permission. I had to give myself the permission to experience the world, to actually have new experiences. I was hanging on to the past, all to these preconceptions and these anchors from the past, so it limited me. So but with the times, I mean, they're free with their bodies. They don't have any, hold-ups about the body, the physicality, that aspect, which was interesting to watch. They're very free in that regard. Free conceptions of other people. They talk openly about death. It doesn't scare them. They talk about health. Sickness, it doesn't scare them. They know that death is a continuation of life. So we have all these hang-ups, and we just sprinkle everything with these little white lies to keep people feeling safe and make us feel better.
Yeah,
But
it's interesting in third world countries and these more holiday destinations that everyone goes to for holidays because they're so simple and refreshing, like Thailand and places like that. They don't have a preoccupation about their bodies, yet they
no,
have better bodies than
yes,
than the rest of us.
absolutely. And it's because they take such a holistic, view of nutrition and exercise and meditation and all the rest of it. It's just such a and living in the present and acceptance and gratitude for the moment. All these things, all these concepts were like, I am missing out on all of this. What have I been doing with myself?
Mm,
But the first thing I had to do, and it was drilled into me, was I had to face things head on. I had to accept hard truths about who I am, what makes me me. I had to get clear on stuff. And all
mm.
that stuff that, I was avoiding my whole life, to get that clarity, to get that insight. But, it's with the Thais, I mean, they see that happiness can exist in the face of adversity. Right? That suffering is a guide. We have to follow that, and we have to
Yeah.
be open to that, and open about everything, every aspect of life, instead of hiding away. And that takes risk. It's scary stuff. And not just take on the philosophy it or sit down at a table and discuss it, but live it, experience it, and be open to things. Be curious about things.
I think also it's doubly hard for a lot of guys, but probably women as well. They're kind of judged and like, body image and all that kind of stuff. But guys have gone from girlfriends and women and society pointing the finger at them unfairly, having a lot of expectations and shaming them, that it's very hard for the guy to say, you know what, that mechanism is still useful. I should be pointing that towards myself as well to better myself. When you get the whole world judging you unfairly,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel natural to start judging yourself as well. But counterintuitively, it's actually the answer for you getting past all of that because it feels like everyone's judging me unfairly. I know it's not right. It's not fair. Therefore, I shouldn't judge myself because all these people are lunatics. They're unfairly judging me and shaming me. I should be cool with myself, which is fine. But also then you don't go internal. You don't point the finger at yourself because you're tired of everyone else pointing the finger at you. And that could be a trap because your salvation comes at actually pointing the finger at you fairly, unlike the world and women. But you don't go there because you're tired at the finger pointing at you.
Yeah.
And so you won't go towards pointing the finger at yourself because you're tired of that. You're tired of any finger pointing at you. And so guys go to the approach dating and they get into these circles of discussion thinking, well, I'm good. I'm fine. It's women in the world that are unfair. And they are, but you're not going to be happy until you judge yourself, unlike the psychos out there, but you judge yourself compassionately and fairly, you're going to be better. But they think they almost, a lot of guys become like women. They think that they're born perfect and they're just entitled to stuff now. And why doesn't the world give me what I want, like a bouquet of flowers? And I think that's the shame, where a guy can actually become whatever he wants to and improve his life in such a simple way if he's real about pointing that finger towards his own life and just turning the dials a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we think we become, it's like that's a trick, but the mind is a terrible beast. It's full of these resistant schemas. They've become rigid over a lifetime.
Oh man,
And
your mindset and your perspective
mm,
is everything. You can point to any life kind of self-help, psychological, social thing, and I bet you and I could point to one mindset versus another one will give you a lot of happiness and predictable, a statistical chance of greater happiness and results compared to a negative mindset.
and I mean, my mother always used to say to me, she said, never open the door to the devil. You should never open the door to vice.
Mm.
Never open the door to other people's opinions unless it actually, goes through the filter of your own reason. And, if you can discern that it's actually truthful based on your own moral compass, you're definitive.
Well,
So
I've responded to some guys in the manosphere when the topic was at hand. I'll say, well, what do you say to the guy? You might think he's naive, but he's happy and content. He's married. He's got a couple of kids. And you talk to him, you might think he's naive and he's unaware, but his life is great. But you in the manosphere is like, well, just wait. His wife will leave him. It's only a matter of time. The data says this, but it's kind of like, it's such a, you've got a perspective of this. He might have a different one, but look at the quality of his life. Even if he is naive about the data, his life will probably continue this way until he dies. He won't know anything different, but you're smart and you know the stats. Like, which quality of life is better? You might know more, you might know some pitfalls, but if another person doesn't experience or hasn't got anything to compare it to, and the quality of his life, his stress levels are 10 times better than yours. His fear factor is lower than yours. Yep. Tell me who's right. Are you right or is he right?
Yeah. Well, it's the thing is, those people that are in successful relationship, because they themselves, as individuals, they're not looking outside of themselves for happiness, right? They understand it's within them. They've done the internal work. That's why they can coexist in an actual, mutually beneficial and rewarding relationship. And the relationships that I've seen that have success, it's because they have that openness and they do their work and they do communicate and they do work together. So but it takes two very, together individuals to make that work.
Yeah, I don't really think that it can work unless you communicate with the person.
Oh, absolutely.
I think if you're young, you're both like 18 or 21, and you're both naively open, you can grow together. But you've got this natural openness to sort of trust each other and have the glass half full mentality. That works. But once you get older and you're single and you keep having failed relationships, the only way for you to trust again is to kind of insist it's revealed through conversation and communication. You have to, because I see so many people playing these games, and the pickup thing and the looking at signs and the top 5 things a woman says that makes her marriage material and yada yada. It's such, again, people can do what they want, but in my experience, and I've been deep in this stuff for a long time because I wanted to find my own answers, not because I was trying to proffer any kind of advice for people. I did my channel and I went into this stuff because I wanted to figure things out for myself. All of this high value male, high value female shit to me is just garbage. It's just an excuse for you not to be responsible for what you know and the experiences you've had and the things you've come to terms with. I've said recently, between Stephanie and myself now, anything on what a woman considers high value male or anything that men consider on the list of high value female, both her and I have almost none of them. Yeah. Yet I'm very happy with her. So what do guys say about that? Oh, you're stupid human. You're being naive. You might think you're happy, but you're not really. Really? Why is this the best relationship I've ever had? And it doesn't subscribe to your Bible of checklists of her or of me. Like, I'm not rich. I don't have a 6-pack. I'm not high status. I'm none of the things that a high value male should be. And she's none of the things that a high value female should be. I can't wheel her out in front of guys and guys will pat me on the back and say, yeah, you've made the right choice, human. That's all it is. It's social approval because you don't have the wherewithal to trust your own judgment of what you're picking and how you live and what you choose to, who you choose to be with. Like, how sad is that I'm going to pick and marry and have kids with a socially approved high value man or woman? It's like, good luck, have fun.
You're not a walking meme, human. What are you doing?
But it's like, I'll go insane. What do I talk to? I get a cardboard cutout high value woman, and we all know what they look like. Just look at the podcasts, the women they have on there, and the guys. If that's what high value is, I couldn't spend 5 minutes in a room with them. I couldn't wait to get out of them. They couldn't even be my friend or an acquaintance, let alone someone I would pick as a life partner or something like that. And it's like, you guys are instructing the relationship world. It's like, oh mate, I don't know when this will become unraveled, but I just don't have enough of my lifetime left to kind of wade into any of that anymore. I'm going to make videos based on, with people and have discussions with people who want to talk in real time and talk from empirical experience and be actual human beings rather than, as you said, walking memes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's rare as hen's teeth to actually find people that you can talk to like this. And, people who are actually content and happy and, they're doing the internal work and they're in relationships and they're going through life and being present and doing the necessary work and, working together. And having that's very rare to find. And but I know the opposite side of that coin is there's a lot of people out there that are trying to live this other life that is completely contrary to their own nature. They're not living in alignment with who they are, their principles, their values. They haven't even identified those. And these are the same people. It's just you see them just self-destruct. And I know for a fact a lot of those guys online, they're going to be spouting this crap. I mean, the PUAs, whatever they call themselves now, they're not happy people. You can see it. I don't watch a lot of their content, but I've caught some of it, unfortunately. But I've known guys in everyday life they've attained millions, bank, they've got the women, they've got the cars, they've got the social circle, and they're abjectly miserable. I've said to a few of them, I said, I used to know you when you were 14. Yeah, you were happy back then. What happened?
There's an Australian writer, I can't remember his name, but he's a very famous one, fictional writer. And he wrote like a very short bits of writing that he found profound that he came up with. And one really nice one I remember, it's almost done like a children's book. So it's a picture on one side with a phrase on the other relating to the picture. And on one side on the left, it had this photo of a boy in a superhero costume with his hands on his hips, looking very proud. And, you can just imagine what he's like. And on the other side, it says, remember when you dressed up like this and you were a superhero? And then it's like ... And it says, well, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that kind of profound, like the loss of enthusiasm and belief in yourself. And it's an exaggeration thinking you're a superhero. But now these guys, they kind of think they're this warped superhero. The superhero they have in their mind is a guy who looks like a bodybuilder who's driving a Ferrari convertible with a dumb bimbo in the passenger seat, and they've got $1 million in their bank account. That's the equivalent. And it's like, how did it go from the boy with the imagination of wanting to be a superhero to this sterile, cookie cutter, system defined kind of success object? It's kind of a bit disappointing.
And it's a lot of these guys. I'm just talking about guys I've known in my everyday life. It just comes back to the thoughts. I mean, it's happiness. It's not based on what you have, or what you think you have, or what you want, or think you want. It solely relies on what you think. It comes back to your thoughts. And it was something that I had to learn. That was you only lose what you cling to, what you hold on to. So I'm holding on to all the wrong stuff. None of this is making me happy. What am I doing? Let it go. What's the worst can happen? You make space for new experiences? Well, I want new experiences. I don't want to just sit in a padded cell with just grey walls. I want a bit of colour,
Most of the time when I reflect on painful losses, and I don't know about you, but when I think back on them, the most painful losses I've had were really the shattering of an illusion that actually wasn't there. Like I lost a girlfriend that was like the worst girlfriend I had, but it was so painful, and it took me 6 months to recover. And she was a terrible person.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all the stuff that we don't need in our life, all this noise. And I've been there with numerous women. They're all wrong for me. It's because I wasn't sitting down and doing the work and identifying. Okay, that's there. Okay, well, I guess this is what I do, right? All the eyes on me in the room. Okay, well, this is what I must do, but this is what's expected.
Yeah.
I remember there was a broadcaster that came into our school, not broadcaster, journalist. He was an international journalist. I remember when I was a kid, and he came into the room, and I understood years later why he was so he became quite despondent talking to us, because he was trying to talk to us and inspire us, and he kept saying that there's a whole world out there, right? There's a whole world out there, and he was trying to talk to us, and he could see that we were so stuck into these little boxes, into this specific community, into this way of thinking, this way of being, and he was trying to talk about his experiences and say, look, there's more to life, and we couldn't see it.
Mm.
I remember I took a bunch of young lads a few years ago. I took them to a rugby stadium, and these guys, they're in their 20s, and I took a whole bunch of them. We went to this rugby stadium, and I looked down the row of seats, and I looked at them, and they all looked like 5-year-old children staring up. They couldn't believe they were there. These guys in their 20s, they'd never been in a place like this, and they had their hands in their laps, scared children.
Yeah.
It's okay, get the hot dogs and the popcorn and everything. But I felt in that moment what that journalist. It's quite a sad sight, but you sort of lose track of those things.
Yeah, I think today as well with social media and phones, people got their heads down. It kind of freezes the child into adulthood. But the moment you tell them, look, you don't have to get rid of that life. Just pause it for a minute. Put your phone down and come to this rugby stadium with me. I think that's what a holiday does, what it used to do to people, is put that thing down that's a problem in your life, the bad relationship, the bad job. Take a break and you'll actually see what the present moment is. Put your phone down, come to the rugby stadium with me. This is you in the present moment, looking up at the stadium, at the sky, and experiencing, you in a tactile sense with the world. That's what it is to be alive.
Yeah. And it's people, they just keep getting, they just tune into all this toxic material. And if your body and your mind is material, if your thoughts are all toxic, you're going to get ill. And it's just going to multiply. The more you allow those toxins to take hold. And you get caught up in all this feelings. That's what's being marketed. So,
well, the anger, anxiety, the clickbait stuff, the reality TV, porn, all of that stuff is very energizing. But it's a really hard burn. Like it really kind of, it drains you. It doesn't fill you up. But the quiet moments, the things that kind of can fill you up and build you into the future, the discipline of exercise, like those considered stable ways of thinking and, going forward, they're not quick burns, but society, the self-help online, everything is a quick burn. Everything is a 3-step program. Everything is reality TV. Everything is a dopamine hit, and with all of this in front of everyone at the fingertips of everybody, it's very hard to convince them, saying it's less exciting than what you got in your hand, but trust me, just sitting still will make you feel better. And they just don't see any excitement in sitting still, SPTESNAZ. It's very hard to convince someone that the answers are over here where it's boring. And they're thinking, well, that doesn't make sense. That's boring. Exciting is where I feel alive. So I'm going to stay where it's exciting. I don't care about the quality of the exciting. It's just that it's exciting. What you're wanting me to do is comparable to death. It's boring. There's nothing there. There's silence. Like, why do I want to go there? I want to stay where it's exciting.
And that's the way they do conceive it. They see it as a form of death. But it's like if you get an animal in the forest and you've got a wounded animal, what's the first thing it does? It lays down and it rests, because it has to in order to heal. And that's the first step if you want to remain present or embrace any form of meditation. Right, to rest your mind and your body, that's the first thing you need to do. You do that by letting go of anxiety, of fear, worry, the weight of your emotions, your expectations, your desires. If you don't, you'll be led by those. So it's a whole process where you've got to pay attention within your body of where they are and release them through breathing and through mindfulness. And it is a form of death. I found it excruciating when I first did it, because I wanted to get up and get physical, but it's a different kind of physicality, awareness, and it is a form of death. You could describe it as such, but that's key to freedom.
Yeah, look, I'm a big believer in the way you talk to yourself can help you.
Yeah.
Because if you tell yourself, oh, this is going to be really difficult, it will be, and you're going to resist doing the right thing in that direction just because you know it's going to be difficult and you tell yourself. But if you just kind of fool yourself in a constructive way to think differently about it, like, yeah, it's not going to be fun, or it's going to be boring, or it's like brushing your teeth. It's like something I don't want to do, but just get it done. Don't overthink it. The way you go about it mentally, it makes a big difference. Because if you tell yourself it's going to be difficult, even if it is, if you've got a choice to kind of talk to yourself about it in an easier way than a harder way, that can make all the difference.
Yeah. And it's I was going to say something. Oh yes. It's all those carrots, those perceived carrots that we have in front of us, like the obstacle. They become the obstacles. Whether it's wanting that car or that job or that woman or what have you. We don't understand that what we're putting in front of us are obstacles. It took me a long time to realize that. These were self-imposed obstacles, and all I had to do was just let go. It really is that easy. Whenever people throw out that line, just do this or just do that, there's actually a lot of truth to it, but there's no just. You've got to take out the just. Fucking hard work is, change your mindset. It's no just to it. Change your mindset. When they say just get out there, you have to get out there. Be active in your community. You have to do this, that. You have to network. You have to build these networks. It takes years to formulate these networks, these relationships. It takes years to formulate trust, to be trusted, so you can trust other people, and to actually, to build these things. It's not just, we're not saying just get out there and try something for 5 seconds. It's you've got to put in this hard work to get to that point where you have these networks and opportunities will come to you. That's how I've met women. That's how I've met business partners. That's how I've had these experiences, met these wonderful people, and had these experiences in my life. If it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have happened. I would have stayed stuck. So I would have ended up like the guys I grew up with. I would have ended up in jail.
When I was younger, and I'm sure most people, they look at documentaries of someone say that scales a mountain, they're climbing Everest or something. And when they're climbing, when they're young and naive, they have a fall, they have a life-threatening accident, and they might, I don't know, break a leg. And that should, to most people, be a lesson that you shouldn't climb the mountain. But then that guy goes back, and it's important to him. He wants to climb it. And as I got older, I started to respect guys that went back in and did it better, and they had more experience, and it was important enough to them so they could. And then they end up climbing the mountain. And whereas other people, they would have given up when they failed at their first naive step. So if you're trying to climb the mountain of relationships or women, it's inevitable. You're probably going to fall or die or whatever it might be. I get it. But to kind of call, like when you see a skillful climber that's insistent on getting it right, and he wants something out of it, and he's got a clear vision, and he's learning about himself through the journey of trying to become a better mountaineer, that's something to be admired and lessons to be taken from that, rather than you climb the mountain when you were 35 and your first attempt was at 18 and you slipped. The lesson is just give up, don't even try. I think that's stupid. And I think none of our forebears or our mentors in the past, our grandparents, would respect that at all.
No. Avoidance of suffering is not a wise strategy.
Yeah,
I remember I was down in Queenstown, and I was skiing, and it was outside that scenes from Springs, and I was looking over in the distance, and it's this huge, big mountain cliffside, and this guy, he just comes streaming down. He's just skiing down the face of it. And this guy's a maniac, and I'm looking around me. I'm the only person looking at him. There's no cameras on him. He comes sliding right across the ice, comes down the mountain, comes up to me, and I said, well, nobody recorded it? He said, no. I said, why'd you do it? He said, because it was there. He just scared away. You got theory, but you got to put into practice, right? Because you apply that to boxing. The punch that knocks you out is going to be the punch that you don't see coming, and you only learn that through experience by getting in there and living it. So
yeah, but that's you enjoying that moment as well.
Yeah.
Whereas today, my sister and her husband tell me about their wedding day in, where was it? In like some popular spot in Italy. What's that popular spot? It's an extinct volcano with a lot of white
Oh, yeah,
houses
yeah,
on the cliffs.
yeah. And
Um,
Suvio, whatever it is.
yeah,
Um,
some Italian place, like it's a
yeah,
romantic hotspot. Everyone gets married there. And anyway, they had this villa overlooking the ocean. And next to them, there was this popular outlook that everyone takes photos on. And
yeah.
they said there was lines stretching for 3 hours down the mountain for people lining up just to take photos here. And they could see this photographic hotspot from their hotel room. And there was this girl after girl, Instagrammers, with a bag full of clothes, taking selfies and then changing clothes and taking other selfies and changing the clothes. And like each person only had 5 minutes to take photos. And that's the way people experience these moments these days, this generation, compared to the skier that you described.
Yeah, yeah. It was interesting when I go to those retreats. First thing they do is take all phones off. No phones, no selfies, no photos. Monks. It's very rare. That's you go to these temples and that's all people are doing. They're putting on rooms. They're live streaming. They never look outside their phone. That's their world. They don't see the world around them.
Yeah.
Almost everything.
But it comes down to the person. I talked earlier about like at what point can't you help a person anymore? Sometimes a person has just built up such a thick wall around them. It's like they've locked themselves in a vault, and they can't hear you, and there's no connecting with them at all. You can't even shake them into into being present and listening to you, and you just basically have to let them fail. And until the person's ready, nothing will happen. The sad truth is, until pain hits, people don't change.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you're comfortable, there's no pain. If you're comfortable on your phone and screaming at men and women and blaming politics and it's this, it's that, and I've got no autonomy and there's nothing I can do. It's comfortable. Nothing will happen. You can still go. You've got McDonald's on every corner. It's a very comfortable existence. But it's only when pain hits is when you start to become real. And unfortunately, most of us don't choose to get out of our comfort zone and want to change because it seems like there's no reason to. Like, what? I'm comfortable. Everything's cool, man. I'm enjoying all this. Why
Yeah,
should I go over there?
yeah, yeah. And then they wonder why young guys freak out or they self-delete. It's sort
Yeah.
of what you're stoking the fires. They're poking these guys all the time. Just trying to incite them, make them angry, make them resentful, make them
Yeah.
emotional, give them dopamine hits, build them up, break them down, build them up, break them down, build them up, break them down. And it's just,
Yeah, I
super
think you need to care. You have to reach a point where you actually care about yourself more than you
yeah,
want the world to care about you, and that's very hard. I can understand guys who didn't have fathers. Women hate them. The world is against them. Like everyone doesn't love you. Now everyone is pointing their finger and blaming you, and you just want someone to see you and think you're not a piece of shit. I get it, but at some point you've got to kind of shut all that down and care enough that like you got to care about yourself to start having these conversations, to start respecting yourself. Because if you're sitting there like a 5-year-old wanting the world to love you or to get the love that your mother never gave you, you're just going to go to the grave with all of that, and you're going to spend all your time online watching these men and women with microphones in front of their faces supposedly teaching you about social interaction where you're not. You're just kind of stoking those bad flames again and again and again.
they're not even striving to, they're not even seeking anything. They're being lost in the abyss.
No,
It's
they,
just, it's horrible.
they don't want solutions, and
No.
it's kind of like they just want to talk. It's really a culture that's now been scripted and run by the female mind. And now even guys are like talking about these things, just emoting. Like, how women don't want solutions. They just want to be able to express and emote. Don't fix it. Let me talk. And I feel like guys now with themselves, with women, socially, dating wise, we're just kind of talking in circles and no one's wanting to sort of talk about solutions because a solution means you've got to do something. And it's just too comfortable to talk on a 3-hour podcast like I mean, we're doing it now, but talk as though you've fixed something. Now, we're not trying to fix anything about our lives. We're talking about the topic. But I think a lot of these people actually think they're getting somewhere by just being on a podcast or listening to a podcast and feeling like I've achieved something, like I've gone for a run or I've eaten healthy. You've done nothing. You've just felt something. And then tomorrow you're going to switch on your screen and you're going to feel something again and feel like you've done something. You've done nothing.
They're just alternating between these highs and lows. But they've got to get to that point where they just detach themselves from it. That's the first step. Will they do it? Probably not until it's too late. But they've got to get that point where they detach, where they can rest, where they can let go of the outcome. And that's men today. They're still asking for permission. They've got to stop. Right? They're still
a good
saying
question is kind of like asking someone who thinks they've got the answers or they've got their shit together. Is like, okay, tell me, why do you like your life? Can you tell me what you enjoy, what you're grateful for in your life? Like, do you have friends? Why is this your best friend? Like, tell me, like, why can you trust him? Tell me about do you like your job? Are you sleeping well? Like, none of those things. It's kind of like you're pontificating about how perfect your life is, but in reality, it's probably not that way. It's good to kind of ask a person who thinks or says they've got it all together. Like, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm free. I have nothing to do. I don't work. I have nothing to do with women. I'm completely without strings. It's like, okay, what's your life like? Like, how are you happy? What routines do you have? All of that. Or are you just watching rage bait videos? Are you feeling alive through anger and victimhood and all of that stuff? So you could have freedom, but how are you enjoying your freedom? What are you watching? What are your relationships like? What are you doing in your life? What's your job like?
Yeah. As was the Dalai Lama, he said that reflection, the essence of acceptance.
Say that again. You were breaking up.
Oh, sorry. The Dalai Lama, he said that reflection is the essence of acceptance. And there's just no reflection going on. It's all been lost in noise.
You've really got to pay attention to your automatic thoughts, because sometimes you can think you're reflecting, and I'm sure a lot of people do this. They think, yeah, I'm thinking. It's like, no, you're not. You're just going into that pigeonhole and retrieving a comfortable answer that has served you for decades, and you think you're right. But actually, like, however you're feeling or what you're tussling with, don't just automatically go for that safe, comfortable meme. Yeah. Think about it and even question it. Like, do I really believe that? Do I really think do I really think that I'm not to blame for my last breakup? Was there any good qualities about my ex? Why did I leave my last job? All these things. It's kind of nice if you can do that and just question yourself, just openly, not doubt yourself, but actually pose the question to your certainty that you're about to plug into, just to kind of see where you sit. Or are you just picking out a comfortable meme to make yourself feel good? And basically,
it's when something hurts. When could be anything. Could be something a partner does, something somebody says. Could be an action. When something hurts, observe it. People told me, so okay, well, you're feeling pain. Well, life is trying to teach you something. And I took the same approach with, like you say, with questions and perspectives I have. I let it pass through. I let it pass through a filter before I speak. I ask myself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Now, it's just not something that you have to do with everything, but it does help. By putting these things in place, these filters, I'm going, okay, well, I could take this course of action. I could say that. I could give you my opinion. I could ask this question. But is it necessary? Does it help me? Does it help the other person? Is it truthful? It does help to gauge things, and you're coming at it from a more compassionate approach as opposed to, just blurting things out and going on the, because then you're just becoming emotionally reactive. You become a prisoner.
And being wise enough to know when one mindset works and another mindset works in a different situation. Say, for instance, Mike Tyson is fairly popular now. You look at him now as he's older and the way he speaks, and you look at him in footage when he was in the ring. And you look at Mike Tyson, the way he talks about his family compared to when he talks about boxing. They're two different mentalities and two different approaches. Whereas people are looking for a one mindset that covers everything. You might, like, you look at someone who's a fighter, being the warrior in training in the ring serves you well. But then when you want to be a friend, or where you want to be a lover or a father or something, you can't be the guy who's training in the ring. You have to be a different, and that skill and wisdom to be able to switch your mind to the person you should be in a given situation to get the most out of life. Whereas a lot of guys think like, no, I'm just going to be one mode all the time. And that's not to say you should change who you are, but the mindset you adopt in different situations can work. And in other areas, it's like adding acid over the whole experience.
There's a book by Casti Yamato. It takes all his best philosophies and quotes. And I've handed that book out for years. It's like an unwanted porno. Just goes around every gym and all over to everybody. Because everybody's searching for that philosophy. A lot of fighters do. A lot of young men, coach, they leap at it. It's because that philosophy, the boxing philosophy, the physical philosophy, it ties in with a lot of what I've experienced in Thailand as well. And you're right, it does encompass every other aspect of life. They're two very different beasts. You get two fighters in the ring. Now, if they're at the same skill level, the only difference is going to be mindset. It's going to be will, determination. The only time where the will is not tested is where the other opponent has such a skill level far opponent. But it's when you apply it, it's still learned behavior. We see Mike Tyson. I mean, that was a guy that just wanted to fight the world. And he said that was a quote. I want to fight the world every day. And he had to endure just unbearable loss. He lost a child. He had to go into prison. He lost cuss. All these different things, all these tragedies. He had to hit rock bottom before he came to that level of awareness. And it's always that way, especially with fighters, especially with criminals, convicts. And it's a shame that we're seeing that with a lot of younger men today, because the shit's going to hit the fan in the next few decades. It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah. I think in some ways people they don't realize why they enjoy watching footage of Mike Tyson reflecting. Like he's learnt a lot and he's reflected on a lot, and it should make you reflect on, like, you have nowhere near the amount of adversities that he's gone through and losses that he's gone through, and look at where he is now and how he can talk about it, and how much he got from every aspect of the, when he was at his prime to then he got thrown in jail and things like that. Look at those potent moments in life that, like, a real great teaching moment. He's kind of lived intensely, and he's had like about 3 lifetimes in one. You look at someone like Elon Musk, whatever you might think. Look at a person that's driven to do exceptional things, and look at you just watching YouTube videos of people arguing. It's like, man, come on, have a bit of clarity, splash some cold water on your face, and just do something, even if it's just putting on a pair of runners and walking out in the sunshine.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, with Mike, when he lost his child, I remember him saying on a talk show, he said he didn't want to think about it, and he didn't want to question what happened. So I think somebody was playing around on the treadmill, and an accident happened. He says, I don't want to think about that, because if I think about it, it's going to take me to a bad place and I might act. Or he blocked out what happened with that false accusation. She had a history of it beforehand, and a history after the fact as well. And he didn't want to think about that. He shut that out. He said, I'm letting go of that. And he never once used the word forgiveness. He used the term letting go. I'm letting go of resentment. I'm letting go of the past. I'm letting go of all of that, so he can move on with the future. And people look at forgiveness and they think it's letting the perpetrator. Change your language. Letting go for you. Letting go so you can move forward. Staying in that state of resentment, anxiety, it's just building a prison. That's what young men are doing. It's going to destroy them mentally and physically. It's going to destroy them.
Well, it doesn't make sense. Like, even to me, I know it's kind of very woo-woo and overly spiritual when they say, you've got to love your enemy and you've got to forgive them and stuff. But intuitively, it doesn't make sense. For me, it makes much more sense as a guy to not look in the rear vision mirror. Like, if your life is a car going forward, rip that fucking mirror off and not even have it there. So you don't not even tempted to look at it. Like, and I think that's what Mike Tyson does. He just has ripped that rear vision mirror off his vehicle, and he just doesn't look at it because it doesn't serve a purpose. Lessons from the past are good, but don't try and live back in time.
No, and you see too much of that. I see it with a lot of guys, especially over in Thailand as well. They're all reminiscing about the good old days. Now all they're doing is just complaining. They're complaining about things aren't. Things move on.
Yeah.
You've got to evolve. You've got to accept that. The only control that you have now is in the present. That's what you need to be focusing on. You need to be establishing, what works for you, what your true nature is, being in alignment with what true nature is. That's where you're going to find happiness. And you're inside your own head. Nobody can give happiness to you. It doesn't come externally. But
I think that the longer you avoid that, the longer you keep circling around old talking points and not extending the conversation further, not trying to entertain a different mindset.
it's something that Thai people talk about, and that's humility. And that's ultimately the state that's most celebrated, and achieve humility. And it's a man has to let go of his own ego. He has to let go of his desires, pride, his arrogance, self-importance. He has to be able to detach from those things, because those are the things that are keeping him stuck. It's that when you let go of those things, when you let go of your ego, your pride, all of that arrogance, you're going to have compassion for self, and you're going to have compassion for other people. That you can't have any kind of growth without doing that. If you remain stuck with those preconceived notions, you're not going to move forward in life. And everybody that you meet is just going to fit this preconception. That woman's a meme. This man's a meme. This guy's going under. She's a cow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't go around tarring and feathering people. I try to avoid it.
Well, I've talked to some guys online, and like, I'm usually kind of open to hear their stories, and they're like, oh, I went on a date and then, but then I listen to them talking, and they're not listening to me. They're not having a conversation. They're just talking at me with their memes. And I'm thinking, I know why probably women think you're weird, because you're talking from a silo. Like you're like an insane person with your own rhetoric, and you don't care what the other person across from you is like. You're not listening to what they're saying. You're not answering their questions. It's not a tennis match of conversation. You've gone there pummeling them with your politics. I can see why it's hard for you, because you don't just want to relax and put that stuff away and turn up as a person, just having a good time. Like, why do you even want to go on a date? Have you asked yourself that? Don't you want to have a good time with a potential friend it's going to be a good conversation, you're going to have a laugh? I've found women who have come to the table with their feminist hat on.
Yeah.
How about when you come to the table with a manosphere mask on? Like when those extreme masks are present, everyone is deterred. Everyone looks weird. Everyone can't connect with you. But if you take the mask off and you just turn up as you, because again, that's why you want to be there. You want to see if you can get along with someone as a human being. That's the only way it's going to work.
Yeah. You bring back flashbacks. I remember sitting there with a woman, and she's saying that talking about careers, and I said men don't get, and she couldn't get her head around it.
Sorry, repeat that. You broke up.
She was sitting there, and I was saying to her that your career doesn't mean anything to a man. Like, she was trying to give me her CV. I was like, men don't care about that.
Yeah.
And she couldn't get her head around it. It was a complete shock. They live in their own bubble.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to see something from another person's point of view. I think the moment you can actually start seeing beyond your own nose and seeing the reciprocal fair dance that should go on between human beings, that's actually a better way to connect with people in the world. That's a realistic way to do it. And I remember a good friend of mine, when she was trying to set me up with someone about 15 or 20 years ago. I still remember it. And it's the degree to which you only see things from your perspective. And she was saying, oh, well, I want to set you up with my friend. I don't know, say her name was Jane. She's got her own business. She owns her own house. She's really successful. And she just kept reeling off this, like what women want. Like, you're not telling me what the person, I was expecting her to say she's kind and she's into this, and in her spare time she's into this and that, and you're not describing the person to me.
No. Yeah, there is no communication anymore between the sexes. It's laundry lists. And I did like your video, your stream. So what doesn't she bring to the table?
Mm.
And I mean, that's a good starting point. That gives you something practical to look at, and I've done that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the woman that I've enjoyed spending time with, there's that connection. And you start communicating, you get on the same page about certain things, about spirituality, whether about philosophy, ethics, what have you. It's different things, travel. It could be any number of things. But you start to see connections. It's not just physical. And it just becomes more important as you you really have to connection and be very on who first and foremost.
Well, if you reflect on who you are and what you want, you have a solid sense of yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
Then when you actually meet people, you can actually gauge where you come away and you go, wow, I had a great time with them. And then you can actually articulate like why. Whereas before, when you didn't, you weren't, it was just like, I want them. I want them. I want to, you're on eggshells. But now I remember when I first met Stephanie and like, I just was enjoying the time away, and it was like, I don't feel stressed. I'm more and more myself, and I'm just enjoying. There's no barriers or anything. And after a while, I realized that she's never dissatisfied about like lifestyle or what we do or don't do. Or, girls are like, well, what's our 5-year plan? Or how come we don't have this? Nancy, her husband bought her this. How come you don't do this? And like, there's none of that. And I started to realize, why I feel so good around you? Why I initially found you different was that all of this stuff you didn't have allowed me to just enjoy being around you. And then you start seeing the compatibilities where I wasn't open to seeing compatibilities until she allowed me to have no barriers up. And the reason I had no barriers up was she brought nothing negative to the table. She didn't contradict herself. She didn't complain. It wasn't my fault. She didn't expect anything. She wasn't material. Like just all this refreshingly simple stuff. And it's like, yeah, then you can go further with a person and see if they're compatible. But without that, if all you get at the start is high value, a lot of money, career, what can you bring to the table? You're essentially just putting walls in front of you and then complaining about the lack of intimacy. Because I can't get intimate unless there are no walls. And if you complain and point the finger at me and I'm an arsehole and I have to walk on eggshells and you never communicate, then there's no way I'm going to bring you close at all. I can't.
Oh, God, no. That's the thing. It's just I've seen so many men just accept, in terms of human beings. I've seen women accept. But it's, we accept the love I think we deserve. So people got very clear on, like you say, you were talking earlier about boundaries. And some people, they still don't know what those boundaries are because, yeah, they've got theory, but take it out there into the real world. It's going to hit you by surprise.
Yeah.
People can see when you have no barriers, when you have no boundaries. You can see. It's,
How many guys are able to talk the way they do with their mates, with their, wife or significant other? I doubt there's very many.
No, and that's the thing. It's men, they hunker down. If they get a woman, they hunker down and seem to have. Then when she kicks him to the curb, for whatever reason they break up, he comes crawling back to his friends, and he's a fair weather friend.
Yeah, I think most guys think that women are like a job, a necessity. You don't enjoy your job, but you just turn up and you slog your way through, and everyone else has got the same experience. And what are you looking for? You're looking for a unicorn? Just get on with it, tough your way through it. Of course, you can't communicate with your wife. Of course, she's not going to be anyone you can confide with. Of course, there's a big wall between you because, biology, men and women are different. And you're never going to trust her fully, and you just got to protect yourself. It's like, oh, fucking hell. I might as well live on my own. I know with that mindset why it's much easier to just have nothing to do with women. If I really believed in that mindset, yeah, I would. And I think it's logical. If you really can't get past that mindset, if you can't be more open and be more open to life and believe that you have much more autonomy than you give yourself credit for, and much more will of decision making and learning from those things, then yeah, I fully support any guy who wants to have nothing to do with women because he just can't think any differently and his mindset is immovable. I get it. I'm on your side. But if you're just being cognitively lazy, if you're just being mentally lazy like that, then, just try a bit.
Just game your wife.
Yeah, keep gaming your wife. Keep pedaling faster. Otherwise, some other guy's going to snatch her away.
Yeah. It's be like Sisyphus. Just keep pushing the rock. Be happy. Be grateful. Oh,
Yeah.
Why would I do it? Yeah, it's not my rock. Not my rock to push.
Yeah, what's that saying that comes to mind? The man who says he can and the man who says he can't are both correct.
Well, it is. It's all mindset, all of it, and it's just all this bullshit out there about relationships, and they try to make it into some sort of science, when really it's the easiest thing in the world. If you just stop and stay present and actually acknowledge and focus on what's happening. It's just
think about guys intuitively know there's not a lot of channels out there needing to sort of make a movement around how to know whether you've got a good friend or how to trust other guys and how to have good relationships with your brothers and your friends and have a fraternity going. But you don't really need to keep talking in circles and convincing yourself. It's fairly self-evident if you approach it square on and realistically. But with women, it's kind of like everyone's just kind of going around in circles and reinventing the wheel. And, someone's got this new pill now and someone's got a new 3-step program. And finally, they've cracked the code of relationships. They found a new religion that'll solve the problem, and it just doesn't.
I know a lot of women. I keep saying it. I think I've said it numerous times in videos and chats, but I know women all ages. They're abjectly miserable right now. They really are. And they got the pick of the litter, all the rest of it, and the career's going well and everything, but they are miserable. And I'm not saying that it's some sort of gotcha moment or whatever. Men are winning. I'm saying it as they're miserable.
Yeah.
And
I think as we get older, both of us are men and women, but men have an easier time with stuff. We can make do with things and hobbies, and our testosterone and our desire for women goes down. But with a woman that's done nothing but use her body and her sex appeal all her life, you've got nothing you're interested in anymore. You can't pretend now to take up sailing. I mean, some women start traveling. That's the cliche. Women do that whole eat, pray, love thing, and they start traveling around the world in all these places, trying to find some emotional, spiritual thing to replace what they've been doing all their life in romanticism. But I think just men can replace relationships with things much easier than women can.
Yeah. And men benefit from being active and being part of things. And it's women, they do get really and they're so regretful over how they've spent their life. And it's, I feel great empathy for, it's they had a lot of noise in their head. And, it's a lot of it's just, I mean, they were fed a lot of these messages by men. Human nature is what it is. I'm not discounting that. I'm saying that, if they had a chance to do things differently, I guarantee women would.
But all you got is now, man. Like I can agree with any guy telling me a story of what he's been through, and it's like, okay, I get you. Even if it's a woman saying like, I went through this and he abused me, and I went through this and I can't trust men. It's like, okay, I can tell you're frustrated, and it still means something to you because you're not talking dispassionately. It still sets a fire underneath you. What are you gonna do now? What can you do from this point? Either continue dating and change your strategy, change yourself, or let go of the whole thing. Like, what are you going to do now? Do you want to stay angry? Do you want to solve the problem? Like what? Like, I can nod and agree with your past. I can say you were 100% not at fault, but right now and moving forward, what do you want? And do you want to be happier? Do you want to date? Do you not want to, just own it and then go forward? Instead of like me sitting there getting an ear bashing about your old war stories and tell, you just want to pontificate on your podium.
And the key word that you said there was detach, and that is letting those things go, letting go of the past. So you can move forward. And that's the one thing that they're not willing to do.
Well, think about any guy or girl if they found someone ostensibly perfect, the answer to all the people they've never been able to get, right? They finally get someone, and they've still got mental baggage. They can't get over an abuse. They can't get over the loss of, like, maybe they had a miscarriage if you're a woman, or a guy, he can't let go of the pain of his ex took his kids. And it really just impacts your present moment and your present relationship. And if you don't come to terms with it, you could have the perfect answer to you. The universe gives you, okay, all the women you're complaining about, here, you get one. And then you're still stuck on your script of the past, and you ruin a good thing that's in front of you. I'm thinking about if I was like a stubborn SOB of like 20 years ago, where I thought I was like, I knew everything and I read up about feminism and all of that sort of stuff. And then you get someone good like the woman I've got in my life now, how I would have just royally screwed it up and then blamed her. Like,
Yeah.
you can get the right thing, but if you've got the wrong script and the wrong attitude, you could get your solution, but you could screw it up because of your belief of yesterday.
Yeah, I've been there plenty of times.
You don't want to blame yourself and like just kick yourself, but also you want to move forward. So sometimes you just justify, well, it's not all my fault. And then you start blaming women again. And it's like, I know it's difficult,
Yeah.
but at some point you've got to continually turn up with as little baggage as possible. Not so the other person doesn't carry it, that's a benefit, right? But so you enjoy that relationship or that job or the new country you've moved to. And then the other people around you enjoy it. And then you've got that really nice cycle, that feedback loop happening. But if you're the person that doesn't hit the tennis ball back over the net all the time, and you're complaining why you're not having a nice game of tennis, you're the problem. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got to get involved. You've got to take that risk. You take a step forward. Got to get engaged. And you've got to get engaged and take responsibility over your own life and your own hands, and have it's the only way.
Yep.
And that man's got to give himself permission to do that. He can't ask for permission from somebody else, some other place. Come from him.
Well, I think we should probably wrap it up there, man. We've been talking for about 2 hours, so you've probably got things to do.
Yep.
Unless there's a point that you wanted to talk about that I've missed.
I think that's pretty good. I mean, yeah, no, it's good stuff, and I'm glad you talked about your relationship as well. I think it's good. It's a good thing for guys to hear, because nobody else is talking about actual relationships in the fashion that you are. No one.
Well, I've always thought that the answers are in the practical aspects. Like, this theory is great and it liberates you. And now, like, you take it out into a world and you try and live a life as a sober person. You know, you've gotten over your addiction. And I've always thought that practical, tactile experience of, like, you know, your theory, you work it out on paper, you work out men and women and yourself. And me talking about my relationship is one of those things. And I'm thinking of bringing out a separate channel where me and the missus just talk about these similar things, but from a couple's dynamic.
Yeah.
Like, not just what a macho guy thinks about women and he's single, because you can have a lot of bravado, but when you're actually in a situation, you start making altered decisions. You don't make it with the clarity with which you did when you were single, but now you kind of go, well, I can't make it an absolute black and white decision here. I have to consider where we are, what they want, what I want. We both have to come out of this happy. It can't just be all my way. Otherwise, I might as well just get a doll.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, but
Yes.
no, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so yeah, I've probably lost most of my Manosphere subscribers from, you know, times gone by, but I don't care. My channel's always been an open journal of me working this stuff out and trying to have conversations with people like you and honest people that want to talk about. Yes, we can all agree on this is bad and you're 100% right about the way women are and stuff like that. But also let's connect it to the personal, because ultimately that's where we're having our frustrations, you know, the personal dates we have, our heartbreaks, our loss, stuff like that. We can't just be safely theoretical in university all the time.
No. You know, putting that vulnerability out there. Who else is talking about that? I mean, you talk about you know, with a mate one-on-one about that. You never see men being vulnerable to that extent.
And what I hope, the main thing I hope by doing a channel with Stephanie is that people won't just, they'll actually hear her talking and get a real life representation of why I'm with her and the way she speaks. And then a person can see, yeah, I can see why she's different and why I might be starting to look at similar qualities in the type of girl I value, not necessarily the blueprint for you isn't the woman I picked, but you might see something there that's real and say, yeah, I know why that works. I know that why I like the way she speaks or the way they talk. There's something real. And that's what I hope to get out of like having a channel where a couple talks about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I can't think of any channels where I've seen that done before.
I think my reason for kind of not distancing myself, but not having any more patience for the state of like the manosphere rules and the shifting, the musical chairs that they kind of play. Like I've got nothing in common because I can't actually talk to a person. I'm talking to a church.
Yeah. I don't even read the comments on my videos. I didn't even engage. Just not interested. It's like you guys do your own thing, interpret it however you want. I'm out.
Well, it's a good lesson in just letting the negativity wash over you. Like I read my comments, but I don't meticulously go through them like I used to. I used to really try and like, oh, I've got to help everyone in my comment section. I've got this many subscribers, I want to take care of them. I want to help all men, but they're so varied that I have to just do these things for myself. And as such, I will connect with guys that are like-minded. Not that I want to find a mirror, but I want to find guys that are open and want to help themselves and want to take it personally. Because all of these answers are very personal and it's your own philosophical way through. It's not a one-size-fits-all. None of that works. It just doesn't. But yeah, thanks for taking the time, man. I really enjoy this. We should do it more often. I haven't talked to you in a while. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and we'll do it again.
You too. Awesome, man. Thanks.
See you, man. Bye.
Cheers.